Chapter 1406. As Gu Mingming spoke, she picked up the cup of water and deliberately shook her hands, spilling the water all over the place. How could Sandy not see through her act? Sniggering, he took the cup from Gu Mingming's hands and placed it at the side. I will let you off this time, but only this time. Gu Mingming snuggled into Sandy's arms and smiled sweetly. Once is enough. I won't dare to do such a stupid thing again. Sandy calmed herself down and said, since Gregory likes you, and he's strong and can fly, do you want to consider taking him as your partner? Gu Mingming was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She sat up immediately and shook her head furiously. No, I definitely won't. Sandy asked, why? Didn't the two great Buddhas of your family agree? Your family hasn't taken in anyone for 4 years. You are such an outstanding female. You should contribute to the beast world and pass down your outstanding genes, right? Look at Hutta and his brothers. How outstanding are they? They are only 3 years old and each of them is outstanding. You should give birth to more children. Gu Mingming held Sandy's shoulders with both hands. It's not a problem to give birth. Elvis and Leah promise me that I can give birth to as many children as I want after I get the love of the sky. But you have too few partners. Even half-orcs and crippled females have more than 2 partners. Sandy felt wronged for Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming really wanted to cry. She had spent so much effort to appease Elvis and Leah, but Sandy, her bad friend, had to rub salt into her wounds again, shaking her head. Gu Mingming smiled bitterly and accepted her fate. In the blink of an eye, it had been 4 years since she came to the beast world. Sandy was the only one who could be considered her best friend. She had a good relationship with the 16 valued females, but they had a blind admiration for her, and it was hard for them to be on the same level. It was not easy to interact with them. Only Sandy was different. Just like just now, she could not find another person in the beast world who dared to point at her nose and scold her. Only Sandy would risk her entire family's lives for her and stand by her side without hesitation. Gu Mingming sighed, then replied seriously, I don't like Gregory. I don't have any feelings for him. There's no connection. Sandy glanced at Hodgson's group of 7, then smiled and said, feelings can be cultivated. When I mated with Hodgson and the others, I didn't like them either. I didn't have any feelings for them. But after getting along with them for a while, they treated me very well. They were considerate and gentle. They would think of everything for me first and consider everything for me. We get along very well. They are also my important family now. Like Bode and Colin, they are my beloved partners. I won't look down on them just because I didn't have feelings for them when I first mated, and they won't blame me for mating with them when I didn't have feelings for them. In the beast world, most families are like this. As long as the males are good enough, the females should give them a chance. Chapter 1407. That's why I can't be nice to Gregory, not at all. Gu Mingming knew all too well how lowly the males in the beast world were when it came to relationships. Even someone as arrogant as Snake liked her so much that he was willing to cut open his chest and dig out his gallbladder to relieve her of her pain, just because of her smile and cowardice. Even before he died, he still smiled and comforted her. Even after he died, he still said goodbye to her in the dream of the beast deity, because he was worried that she would be burdened. He went to another world to look for her. Even though he had died once because of her, he still loved and protected her with a heart full of joy. He did not bear any grudges because of her death, and only treated her as the treasure in his heart. She was extremely afraid of this kind of crazy love, because you would never be able to reciprocate it. Leah was able to pester her to such an extent because she liked Leah. She left some leeway in all her rejections and could not really be heartless. No matter how much she tried to hypnotize herself about the values of marriage and love, she still could not resist his deep love and his amorous eyes. So they were entangled, and after many twists and turns, they finally got together. She had no feelings for Gregory, so she could not let others misunderstand. She had to be heartless now so that he would have the chance to love someone else in the future. Sandy shrugged and said, All right, if you don't like it, I won't force you. Anyway, these two in your family treat you very well. Even though they are a little domineering, they still love you dearly. Gu Mingming smiled and leaned on Sandy's shoulder, saying, They are not domineering, you didn't see snake. TSK, self-taught domineering persona, that is really. Woman, you are playing with fire, haha. Sandy burst into laughter at Gu Mingming's sudden words, which she suppressed her voice, and the two females became a mess. Hodgson and the rest looked at each other, and could not help but look at Bode with admiration. That gaze seemed to be saying, no wonder you are the first partner. You really understand, Sandy. Bode returned a slight smile, as if saying, well said, well said. It was only in the afternoon when Elvis and Leah carried Gu Mingming back to the stone castle, while Arnold was still standing outside the territory, his posture imposing. Gu Mingming could not help but admire him. He had been standing there for an entire morning, yet he could still maintain such a demeanor. Whenever she lifted her head to look at him, he would look like a poster. He really had perseverance. Leah followed Gu Mingming's gaze and looked at Arnold. He felt a little upset but still asked, you like him? Ah. Gu Mingming was in a daze and did not catch on to Lee's joke. Leah said, if you like it, he will definitely be willing. After all, mating with you is more effective than mating with Sandy. Gu Mingming shook her head and waved her hands. No. I'm not acting in strange stories from a Chinese studio. Why would I need so many vixens? You alone are enough. Lee's expression brightened, and he nodded with a smile. After returning home, Leah made dinner. After Elvis fed Gu Mingming, Leah handed the cutlery to Oriton to clean. He then took out the comb that Cole had given to Gregory previously. He asked Gu Mingming, do you still want this? Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. Gu Mingming had long forgotten about the comb, and was rather surprised to see Leah take it out. It's still here. I thought I had thrown it away long ago. I don't want it. What do I want it for? You can deal with it as you see fit. Chapter 1408. Gu Mingming guessed that Leah had probably brought that comb to Cole, although she did not know what they talked about. But after that night, Arnold no longer stood at the border of Sandy's territory posing. Counting the days, little shit should be arriving soon. Gu Mingming was a little timid as she discussed with Elvis and Leah. Could they not tell little shit about the stupid things she did on Moda Mountains? Because once little shit knew that she had jumped off a cliff, he would explode on the spot. He had said many times that her life was exchanged with snakes, and she had to cherish it. But no matter how many times she said it, Elvis and Leah did not believe that she had jumped off the cliff, because she was sure that Gregory would catch her. It was just a threat and not a suicide attempt. They had already used Sandy's mouth to scold her once. Should they not complain to little shit again? If the whole world knew that she had attempted to commit suicide, Elvis and Leah nodded in agreement, indicating that they would not bring up this matter again. But no matter how much Gu Mingming planned, she forgot about Sandy. At the entrance of Sauter, little shit met Sandy's family, who was being carried by Colin to the forest to watch Bode lead Joseph and his brothers in actual combat training. Originally, Wabi did not have any feelings for Sandy. After all, he was a snake beast and was naturally cold-blooded. It was one thing for him to like Gu Mingming, but he would not like everyone related to her just because he liked her. But when Sandy saw Wabi, she took the initiative to greet him, and Wabi did not ignore her. He still had to give Gu Mingming some face. But this greeting was troublesome. Sandy told Wabi everything about Gu Mingming jumping off the cliff on Mota Mountains. As expected, Wabi was infuriated on the spot. He flew straight into Sauter and without a second word, he went up to the roof of the stone castle and directly attacked Gregory. Gregory had lived on Mota Mountains for many years, and was naturally sensitive to danger. So when Wabi charged in with a strong murderous intent, before Gregory could react, he had already spread his wings and flew high into the sky. But Wabi was after all 2 levels higher than him. So even though Gregory managed to avoid being hit in his vital organs, his ankle was still hooked by Wabi's venomous fangs. After flying for a short while, he fell straight down in front of Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming stared blankly at this scene, not knowing how to react. How should she put it? When little shit came in, she wanted to greet him, but before she could even smile and wave, Wabi had already bitten Gregory. Everything happened too quickly and Gu Mingming was a little overwhelmed. Little shit. Gu Mingming did not manage to stop the first move in time, but she saw Wabiai's eyes turning red, as if he would not stop until he had skinned Gregory alive. Gu Mingming could only stand in front of Gregory and hug him. Calm down, calm down. What's wrong with you? Did he offend you? Wabiai's eyes narrowed into slits as he stared at Gu Mingming with a sinister expression. He said her name word by word, as if he was a messenger from hell demanding for her life. Gu Mingming. What? Gu Mingming looked at Wabiai in shock. She had known him for almost 3 years, right? She had never seen him so angry before. Even though he could not defeat her, Gu Mingming still smiled timidly. Little shit. Why are you calling me by my full name like a gangster demanding a debt? What's wrong with you? Aside from the topic. Chapter 1409. You have guts. Wabiai was infuriated and his entire body was emitting black smoke. He really wanted to kill Gregory, but Gu Mingming clearly wanted to protect him. He wanted to give Gu Mingming a good beating, but even though he knew he was no match for her, he couldn't do anything to her slender arms and legs. He spun around on the spot, and his gaze landed on Elvis. Little wolf pup, come out and fight. Wasn't Elvis also suppressing a bellyful of frustration? Being singled out, he chuckled. I'll be happy to keep you company. With that, Elvis and Wabiai left together. Gu Mingming face-bombed. The last time these two rascals were like this was when Wabiai was scolding Elvis before they went to the Mecca Desert. Now they were doing it again. Although she was stunned when she saw Wabiai attack Gregory, now that she thought about it again, how could she not understand? He probably knew about her jumping off the cliff on the Mota Mountains and couldn't bear to blame her, so he pushed all the blame to Gregory? Sigh, her momentary recklessness had caused someone else to pay the bill. Gu Mingming felt guilty. Let him take a look. Don't let little shit really poison him to death. Gu Mingming shook her head in exasperation. She wanted to help Gregory up, but hesitated and took a step back, handing Gregory over to Leah. Leah was pleased by Gu Mingming's action of avoiding suspicion. Although he had allowed Gregory to like Gu Mingming, it didn't mean he was willing for Gu Mingming's family to have another male. Moreover, one whose looks could threaten his and could fly. Leah helped Gregory up, but didn't bring him into the stone castle. Instead, he placed him at the edge of the outer wall and let him lie down. Then he checked his ankle. A large chunk of his flesh had been scraped off by Wabiai's teeth, revealing his white bones. The surrounding flesh had turned black, and a blackness spread along his ankle like a spider web. Leah clicked his tongue. This Wabiai must be really furious, right? This poison is too ruthless. Is there no hope? Gu Mingming was a little worried. It was not a big deal for a few males to die in the beast world, but Gu Mingming still felt uncomfortable that she had died so mysteriously. Leah was unwilling to let Gu Mingming take the blame for another person's death. Snake was already on her mind. He would not let another Gregory become the person in her nightmares. Hence he sighed and said, Count himself lucky, I happen to have a medicine that can cure this poison. Gu Mingming's heart sank. With that, Leah returned to the house and brought out a small beast skin bag. Opening it, there were 2 pieces of snake scales inside. He scraped the snake scales with his fingernails and smeared the powder on Gregory's wound. After a short while, the black color that spread like a spider's web gradually faded away. Then the black color on the wound gradually faded away as well. The poison was neutralized, but the rotten flesh could not be recovered. Leah could only use his fingernails to cut off the rotten flesh. He only stopped when fresh blood flowed out. Gu Mingming watched the entire process and felt a little guilty. She shook her head helplessly and said, This little shit is too rash. He didn't say anything and just came up to hit me. Leah tilted his head and looked at Gu Mingming. After a long while he asked, Your heart aches? Chapter 1410. He deserved to die because he was not as skilled. Leah stood up and changed his body, removing all the blood stains and stench from his body. He then returned to Gu Mingming's side and hugged her. Males do not need a reason to fight. This is the rule in the beast world. If he can't even protect himself, becoming food is his only fate. Gu Mingming shook her head. I don't care if he dies outside. But little shit attacked him because of me. So I will not feel comfortable if he dies. I will not let him die. Don't worry. Leah promised. Gu Mingming nodded. She glanced at the beast's skin bag in Lee's hands. That snake scale is Ellie's? Leah nodded as a reply. Gu Mingming no longer felt any hatred towards Ellie. Her scales were just herbs to Gu Mingming, and she no longer felt disgusted. Pointing at Gregory, Gu Mingming asked, "That wound, won't he become disabled?" "He does not fly on his feet. It doesn't matter if he becomes disabled," Leah said nonchalantly. Gu Mingming frowned. Leah then corrected himself. "Don't worry. He was just scratched by Wabiai's teeth. Males in the beast world are not so delicate. They will grow back in 2 or 3 days." Gu Mingming then relaxed and did not say anything else. Elvis and Wabiai's fight lasted until the next afternoon. Gu Mingming was speechless when 2 people who looked like wounded soldiers who had just returned from Syria appeared in front of her. A beast king and a 5th-level warrior, who was just 1 step away from breaking through the bloodline barrier. Both of them were badly battered. If one did not know that they were fighting each other, they would have thought that the beast deity had manifested himself to be able to beat them up so badly. Gu Mingming supported Elvis, but her eyes were on Wabiai. "Have you calmed down?" "Calm down your ass." "Humph." Wabiai stiffened his neck and ignored Gu Mingming. He swam to the tree outside the stone castle and hung from the branch, pretending to be a flying poop. Gu Mingming sighed. "All right. If you are still angry, I will get Elvis to fight with you again after you 2 have rested." To little shit, there was nothing in this world that could not be solved with a fight. If there was, then he would fight twice. Actually, Gu Mingming herself could also fight with Wabiai. But it was obvious that Wabiai couldn't bring himself to fight her as his hands and feet were tied. Moreover, Elvis and Leah didn't like her to be rough, so she could only leave this matter to Elvis. After all, if Wabiai fought Leah, Leah would probably be beaten into his original form by now. Wabiai didn't say a word. He just closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep, refusing to acknowledge Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming had no choice but to help Elvis back into the house. As she cleaned his wounds, she asked, "You are a beast king. How did you get injured by Wabiai to this extent?" Elvis chuckled. "We're just venting our emotions. We're not really going to take his life. We can't possibly use our beast pressure to kill him, right? Besides, if I didn't let him hit me twice, would he be able to swallow his anger?" Gu Mingming frowned as she carefully cleaned Elvis's wounds, muttering, "All of you are so hot-tempered." Chapter 14:11. How can I ignore it? What if it gets inflamed? Gu Mingming grumbled as she carefully cleaned Elvis's wound. What she didn't know was that Gregory, who was lying outside the door, had already woken up. Due to the complications of being poisoned, his entire body was weak and he had lost a piece of flesh on his leg. It wasn't fatal, but it was still quite painful. Unfortunately, he didn't receive a caring look from Gu Mingming. Hearing her asking about Elvis's well-being, Gregory's mind kept replaying Cole's words. You can become her partner and brand the mark on her heart, replacing Elvis as the first partner. How blissful would it be if she was in his arms now, blaming him for not protecting himself properly when he was injured? Elvis and Lee's injuries were not that serious. Although they looked frightening, they did not kill each other. So before evening, their injuries had already healed and they looked like nothing had happened to them. On the other hand, although Gregory only had 1 injury and it didn't look obvious, he was still a 3rd-level beast and his recovery speed was far slower than the 5th-level Wabiai, much less the Beast King Elvis. But because Gregory was injured, Gu Mingming felt apologetic, so she asked Leah to prepare a portion for Gregory when preparing dinner. Gu Mingming's family of 3 consisted of the regular member who shared meals with them, Oriton, the still angry and cold Wabiai, and the injured Gregory. Gu Mingming sat at the table and used her chopsticks to poke at the meat in her bowl. Looking at the unhappy Wabiai, she thought for a moment and coaxed him. "A little shit, do you want to be the Beast King? I can help you snatch the soul of the forest from Cole. Then you will be the rightful Snake King and replace Snake at the pinnacle of snake life. Just thinking about it makes me happy, right?" Wabiai rolled his eyes coldly and snorted without saying another word. Plan 1 to please Wabiai failed. She scooped a large bowl of meat and brought it to Wabiai's mouth. Lee's culinary skills have improved quite a bit recently, Try it, he added an unknown fruit into this meat. It's very delicious. Wabi-ai nodded. Wabi-ai nodded. Wabi-ai turned his head to show Gu Mingming the back of his head. Plan 2 to please Wabi-ai failed. Gu Mingming sighed and said, "Forcing me to use my ultimate move, huh?" Wabi-ai looked nonchalantly at Gu Mingming and sneered, completely unfazed by her threat. Gu Mingming nodded and smiled sneakily. "I'm going to sleep." Wabi-ai was stunned for half a second before he understood what sleep meant. His pupils returned to normal in an instant, and he looked at Gu Mingming with a sparkling gaze. Gu Mingming laughed and said, "Then go and tell my father that the time I helped you ask questions in the past doesn't count anymore. I will never send you to see him for the rest of your life." Emph. Wabi-ai coughed and grabbed Gu Mingming's arm. "Gu Tu-ming, you can't treat me like this." Successfully coercing Wabi-ai's plan 1. Gu Mingming imitated Wabi-ai's indifferent attitude just now. She harumphed coldly and stiffened her neck, not saying another word. Little shit was a classic example of refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Thinking of wine, Gu Mingming turned her head back and glared at Wabi-ai. "You drank all my wine before winter arrived." Wabi-ai was stunned. Chapter 14:12. Who are you calling stingy? Gu Mingming placed her hands on her hips, looking like a teapot. Wabi-ai had a favor to ask of her, so he naturally lowered his arrogance. I am stingy, all right. That's more like it." Gu Mingming twitched her lips and let him off. Wabi-ai hooked his arm around Gu Mingming's neck and said in a brotherly manner, "But to be honest, don't forget that matter. I'm counting on you." Gu Mingming pushed Wabi-ai's arm away with a look of disdain. "You still know you're counting on me? Then you still dare to give me that attitude? Wasn't I so angry that I became muddle-headed? Moreover, even if I was that angry, I still couldn't bear to lay a finger on you, right? You are my ancestor, my biological ancestor, all right?" Wabi-ai nudged Gu Mingming with his shoulder, trying to please her. In her memory, Wabi-ai had never shown such an expression when Snake was alive. It seemed like he was getting more and more mischievous after spending so much time with Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming nodded. "All right, I got it. Keep that disgusting face of yours. After all, you are Snake's father now. Can't you have some face?" Wabi-ai chuckled. "Sigh, you don't say. Being Snake's father really feels great. I don't need to do anything. Just thinking about it makes me feel like I can ascend to the heavens. Yes, you should stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun." Gu Mingming rolled her eyes at Wabi-ai. Wabi-ai laughed dryly. Then he pointed at Elvis. "Little wolf, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and help your female to sleep. Damn it." Gu Mingming slapped the back of Wabi-ai's head. "Don't you have any respect for your old age? Help your female to sleep." He actually shouted such shameful words. Why was he so afraid that others couldn't hear him? How easy would it be to cause a misunderstanding? Yes, Elvis had to sleep with her because he was worried that she would meet the beast deity alone. He was afraid that the beast deity would scold her, and that she would directly fall into Snake's arms in her dreams. But when the two of them went to see the beast deity, they were really just sleeping. Just like kindergartners taking an afternoon nap. They just held hands and lay on the bed with their eyes closed. Damn it. Why do I feel like I'm making things worse? Wabi-ai was bewildered by Gu Mingming's patting, but he seemed to have gotten used to it. All he wanted now was for Gu Mingming to go to sleep, so that she could tell him how Snake was doing when she woke up. And when would he be able to see him? So Wabi-ai didn't mind her touching him and spouting nonsense. He just gave a perfunctory reply. Yes, yes, yes. I am a disrespectful old man. My entire tribe is disrespectful old man. Gu Mingming was so amused by Wabi-ai that she lost her temper. She allowed him to push and shove her into Elvis's arms, not even allowing him to wipe his mouth before pushing him into the stone castle to sleep. Leah also put down the bowl and chopsticks in his hands and said to Oratin, "You can have the rest. Wash the bowls after you finish eating." Oratin lowered his head gloomily. Gu Mingming went to sleep again. That meant that Leah wouldn't be cooking for the next 4 to 5 days. Gregory, who had been left out in the cold and almost forgotten, watched the scene unfold before him with envy. Haven't you always been walking the path of eating and waiting for death? Leah didn't mind Wabi-Eye's teasing and just smiled. Cole is doing something that Ming Ming doesn't like. I promised Ming Ming that I would stop him. So, I need to level up to the 5th level first, then activate the Beast King bloodline, and become the legitimate Fox King. I will take drastic measures against Cole. Chapter 14:14. On the other side, Gu Mingming was gradually ascending along with the white fog. Having experienced it the first time, Elvis was no longer as flustered. He just protected Gu Mingming tightly, hugging her in his arms out of habit. The beast deity stood on the platform and waved at the two of them. He then pulled Gu Mingming out of Elvis's arms with a grin and hugged her. Even if you two have become partners, you can't hug my daughter in front of me. Don't you have any shame? Elvis lowered his head. Father-in-law is right. Although he said so, he did not think so in his heart. Without Gu Mingming in his arms, he felt something was missing. It was as if he was only complete when he hugged her. Gu Mingming held onto the beast deity's arm with a grin. Father, I haven't come back to see you for a long time. Did you miss me? Of course. The beast deity pinched Gu Mingming's little nose dotingly. Didn't you only go to retrieve the love of the sky during the drought season? Why did you come back so early? Fine, this mischievous brat who only knew to return home when he lacked money was already deeply rooted in his heart. Gu Mingming accepted it. Anyway, it was already like this. She laughed awkwardly. Didn't I get into trouble at Mota Mountains and angered little shit? The beast deity chuckled. He poked Gu Mingming's head. You're a coward. Gu Mingming did not retort. She held onto the beast deity's arm and sat on the long bench. She was afraid that the beast deity would suddenly think of some crafty way to scold Elvis. She said anxiously, Father, hurry up and start. I will accompany you to watch television. All right. The beast deity turned back to glance at Elvis. His gaze was saying, My daughter is so popular. You scum, you had better be tensed up. If you don't treat my daughter better, I will replace you anytime. Gu Mingming did not notice the look the beast deity was giving Elvis. She just smiled and urged the beast deity to start watching television. The beast deity waved his hand. The screen that resembled a home theater appeared before their eyes. The location was the female toilet of S University. The scene was the previous time when Snake hugged Gu Mingming, who was secretly crying in the toilet, and questioned the girls who were talking about her behind her back. The girls slid away from Snake while sticking to the wall. Snake really minded that his hands would touch any other females other than Gu Mingming. Otherwise, he would have crushed them to death on the spot. Talking behind his Tuming's back? You probably don't even want your tongue anymore. Snakel's face was extremely gloomy. Today was really not a good day to come to school. Tuming had just been made to cry by that jerk, and now she had to hear those girls ridiculing her behind her back. I can't stand it. I can't stand it anymore. How could his precious treasure be trampled upon like this? Snakel whipped out his cell phone and sent a message to the principal, asking him to retrieve the surveillance footage from the corridor outside the female toilet, and take screenshots of the faces of the 3 girls who had just walked out. He would then send them along with their admission information to his secretary. The headmaster did not dare to be negligent, so he did as he was told. But Snake was not in the mood for class anymore. He pulled Gu Mingming's hand and said, Let's go home. But we still have lessons in the afternoon. Gu Mingming was worried about her school credits. Her results were already not good. If she were to miss school, how could she graduate? Chapter 14:15. Gu Mingming hesitated for a moment, then pulled Snake and asked, Can I not go back today? Snake looked at Gu Mingming and asked gently, If you don't go home, where do you want to go? Gu Mingming lowered her head and said, I want to go back to the hostel for a night. No. Snake frowned and said, It's not convenient for me to stay in the female hostel. Gu Mingming was stunned for 2 seconds, then she shook her head and said, What I mean is, I want to go back to my previous hostel and squeeze in with Bailan for a night. Snake's face darkened and he pinched Gu Mingming's chin. Looking at her red and swollen eyes, he said unhappily, You mean you want to abandon me and sleep with someone else? Why did that sound so weird? Bailan is a girl. Gu Mingming mumbled softly. Snake's face was still cold as he narrowed his eyes and said, So a girl can hug my woman as she pleases? Gu Mingming choked. Her relationship with Bailan was very good, but they were innocent, all right? Why did those words sound so different when they came out of Snake's mouth? I just feel bad today and want to talk to Bailan about it. Snake pulled Gu Mingming back into his arms and said, You have something on your mind but don't want to tell me, but to tell someone else? Gu Mingming, whose girlfriend are you? Gu Mingming's face heated up from Snake's question. She lowered her head and said softly, Not everything on one's mind is suitable to be discussed with one's boyfriend. Snake lifted Gu Mingming's chin and forced her to look up at him and asked, Why? Gu Mingming pursed her lips and answered, A girl's mind is very complicated and delicate. Guys will find it pretentious and impatient when they hear it. I don't want you to think that I am too clingy and troublesome, so. Snake was not too satisfied with Gu Mingming's explanation, but it was better than using the excuse of Bailan is more important than him, so he reluctantly accepted it. Kissing Gu Mingming's little mouth, Snake then said, Tu Ming, stop provoking my jealousy, all right? Gu Mingming looked at Snake in confusion, not understanding what he meant. Jealousy? Such a thing did not exist. Gu Mingming felt that she did not have good relationships with the opposite sex. In her past life, she was so busy trying to survive that she did not have time to think about other things. The only time she had anything to do with it was when she had given Zhang Jincheng a love letter, but it was intercepted by Snake halfway. After dating Snake, she became even more unapproachable to strangers. There was no existence around her that could make a boyfriend jealous. Snake could tell that Gu Mingming was confused and just smiled. He looked into her eyes and said affectionately, Before I appeared by your side, I was jealous of everyone who passed by you, because they could easily see the you that I dreamed of. Now that I can finally be with you, you still want to tell others about your troubles. Tu Meng, if someone else is more important than me in your heart, I will go crazy. I will go crazy from jealousy. Actually, I hope that there is no one else in your heart except for me. But Snake did not say this out loud, because he knew where Gu Mingming's limits were. If he pushed her too hard, she would only be scared away. He wanted to protect her for the rest of her life, but not to imprison her. Gu Mingming was flustered by Snake's words. She lowered her head and said, I was just afraid that you would find me annoying. Chapter 14-16. I have already missed out on the past 18 years with you and I can't make up for that. So Gu Ming, don't let me lose even more. To me, you are too precious, more precious than you can imagine. Snake kissed the top of Gu Mingming's head and sighed heavily. I can't be without you, not even for a second. If you must return to the hostel, then give me 3 days and I will get the school to clear out a building for me to stay with you. But if you want to leave me and go to someone else's bed, this is definitely not possible. Don't mention it again, don't even think about it. I don't want to go to someone else's bed. Look at what you're saying. Gu Mingming swore to the heavens. She and Lan were really pure, but why did it sound so awkward coming from Snake's mouth? Snake smiled and walked out of the female toilet with Gu Mingming in his arms. The other students had already gone to class, and there was no one else in the corridor other than the two of them. Snake hugged Gu Mingming as he walked and said, You don't want to go to someone else's bed. You only want to go to my bed? All right, you said it, don't go back on your words, understand? I didn't mean it that way. Gu Mingming hurriedly retorted. Yes, they were now in a relationship. Since he used the excuse of being a pet dog to stay on her bed every day, they did sleep together every night. But in all honesty, the two of them were really just sleeping on the same bed, and there was not the slightest bit of inappropriate behavior. But what only want to go to my bed? Why did everything Snake said today make her feel awkward? Snake's gaze froze and he narrowed his eyes. You didn't mean it that way? Then what do you mean? You don't want to go to my bed, or you don't just want to go to my bed? Pfft, Gu Mingming spat at Snake. Can't I sleep on my own bed? Why must I sleep on someone else's bed? Upon hearing this answer, Snake smiled and nodded, saying, "You have quite a strong sense of territory. All right, I'll do as you say. You can sleep on your own bed. I don't recognize beds, I only recognize you. As long as you are on my bed, I'm fine with any bed. But I have to correct something. I am not someone else. I am yours." Gu Mingming's face was extremely red. She quickened her steps and scolded, "Shameless." Snake's legs were much longer than Gu Mingming's. Gu Mingming had already started to jog, but Snake was still walking leisurely. He did not mind her scolding him, and just smiled. "It's enough for me to have you. Why do I still need my face?" It was only noon when the two of them drove back to the villa. When she went to school in the morning, she was called out by her jerk father after just one lesson. Then, she stayed in the toilet for half a day, listening to her classmates ridiculing her behind her back. Then, she was teased by Snakel before she came back. Gu Mingming thought. His university tuition seemed to have been paid for in vain. Damn it, I received the money, but I didn't get the knowledge that I was supposed to give. It felt like I was shopping on Taobao and the other party had received payment for the goods, but the goods were fake. Snakel looked at Gu Mingming sitting at the dining table biting on her chopsticks. It was obvious that she had a lot on her mind, but she did not look sad. He guessed that she was probably not thinking about that scumbag of a father of hers, so he did not probe further. He allowed her to wander around the universe and daydream while he prepared lunch in an orderly manner in the kitchen. Chapter 14-17. Based on the average human lifespan of 80 years, with 3 meals a day, he could still cook 67,890 meals for Gu Mingming. Excluding the meals during their dates, work, school canteen as well as her occasional cravings to eat junk food, the total amount of food he could cook for her was about 40,000 meals. If he wanted to cook all the dishes he had learned for her, he had to ensure 3 dishes and 1 soup for every meal at home. Lunch was the Italian series, with ravioli as the main course and 3 other dishes, namely bistica fiorentina, white wine lavarelli fish and caciocco. For dessert, he prepared a Sicilian sweet omelette and a special cappuccino. Usually Italian delicacies should be paired with wine, but Snake was not too willing to let Gu Mingming drink alcohol, so there was no wine cellar in this villa. There was a manor in F country, but that was one of the wedding gifts he had prepared for Gu Mingming. After eating, Snake carried Gu Mingming to the balcony on the 2nd floor to bask in the sun. He casually played with her hair and asked with a smile, "Are you planning to read Xinhua dictionary to me? Or are you planning to tell me what's bothering you?" Gu Mingming held the coffee cup in her hands and took a small sip of Snake's specially brewed coffee. It tasted really good, the sweetness was just right and the foam was fine. He did not purposely make it especially bitter to show off his taste, nor did he put in too much sugar to please her taste buds. Snake had accurately achieved a balance, perfectly satisfying Gu Mingming's current desire that she could not even describe. The feeling of bliss spread from her lips to her entire body, making her feel warm, and the events in the morning did not seem so depressing anymore. Gu Mingming lowered her head and smiled, saying, "I don't want to read Xinhua dictionary. It's so weird." "Then share what's bothering you, I also want to hear it." Snake gently stroked Gu Mingming's hair, his eyes filled with love. "You also want to hear it?" Gu Mingming glanced at Snake. Snake nodded and said, "I want to hear it whenever you want to talk to me." Gu Mingming chuckled and asked, "Then what if you are busy? For example, in class or in a meeting?" Snake kissed the back of Gu Mingming's hand like a gentleman, then said, "As long as you want to talk to me, I am not busy at any time." Gu Mingming smiled, then said, "Actually, it's nothing much, I just felt very wronged at that time. But now that I think about it, why did he come to find me? Did he encounter some difficulties? No matter what, he was still my biological father. After all, he gave me life. Would it be too unfilial of me to run away like this? But I also felt that I had suffered so much because of him. I really couldn't forgive him. Therefore, he was very conflicted and did not know what to do. I want to ask Bailan and hear what she has to say. Is Bailan's opinion very important?" Snake asked with a tinge of jealousy. Gu Mingming shook her head and smiled bitterly. "Actually, I can already predict what Bailon will say to me. Snake replied with a single syllable to express his question. Gu Mingming said, "She will probably ask if I am the reincarnation of a white lotus? Then she will list all the hardships and sufferings I have suffered all these years because of an irresponsible father. The final conclusion should be, as long as you are not an idiot, don't bother about him." Aside from the topic, this Italian meal sounded very classy, didn't it? How was Susu's acting cool? To be honest, I have never eaten any of these dishes before. I only read about them from gourmet blogs. Susu herself probably only knew about pizza and spaghetti. Chapter 14:18. Snake smiled. According to Gu Mingming's memory, Snake felt that Gu Mingming's analysis was correct. Bailan's words should be along this route. Even if the wording was different, the main idea should be close to the mark. Since you already guessed it, why do you still need to discuss it with her? Snake asked. Gu Mingming lowered her head and smiled faintly. Her eyes were a little teary as she replied, "I just need Bailon to scold me. Then I can tell myself with a clear conscience that Bailon is right. It's not my fault that I don't care about him, he is a scum. He gave birth to me but did not take responsibility for me, causing me, a child with parents, to live a life worse than a beggar by the roadside. So no matter what hardships he encountered today, it is his retribution. I don't need to pity him or blame myself, he deserves it." Yes. After Gu Mingming finished speaking, she secretly turned to look at Snake. She took a deep breath and said, "Do you think I am so evil? Are you regretting having a girlfriend like me?" Snake shook his head and smiled. "There is no good or evil in my eyes, no right or wrong, only you. You are my standard. If you are kind, I will redeem myself and become a Buddha. If you are evil, I will sacrifice myself and become a demon. Regardless of good or evil, I will always be on your side." "Thank you for saying that." Gu Mingming thought for a while and kissed Snake on the cheek. Then she added, "Although I know it is fake, I am still very touched by it. I feel much better now that you have comforted me." "Silly girl." Snake rubbed Gu Mingming's head and said, "Lying is to achieve some goals that cannot be achieved by telling the truth. And I, who is omnipotent, do not need to lie." Gu Mingming was amused by Snake and said, "Are you really in your second year of university? Not in your second year? Omnipotent me. TSK, are you in the final stages of Chinibyu?" In fact, he was almost omnipotent. Except for her. But he had originally intended to make her laugh. As long as she laughed, he had achieved his goal. It was nothing to be teased by her. As long as she was happy, he would be happy. Then what do you plan to do next? Do you want to forgive him or take revenge? I can help you with either. Snake asked. Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "I want to know why he suddenly came to school to look for me. But I don't have the courage to ask. Forgive him, I can't do it." There was no need for her to take revenge on him. The so-called sadness meant that it was really difficult, but it was over. Since I've made it through, why should I sink into it again? Anyway, I haven't had a father for more than 10 years. I hope that he will never appear in front of me again. Let me continue to be a fatherless child for the rest of my life. All right. Snake kissed her forehead and said, "He will not appear in front of you again, don't worry." Gu Mingming smiled. "I hope so." After that day, Gu Mingming's jerk of a father never appeared again. What she did not know was that the bastard of a father, his mistress and their illegitimate daughter were thrown to Zimbabwe by Snake's men. That was a GDP 0 per capita. For $1, the average lifespan of a man was 37 years, and the average lifespan of a woman was 34 years. Countries where 1% of the population carries HIV. Chapter 14:19. Gu Mingming tugged at Snake's sleeve and asked in a low voice, "What's going on? Did your identity get exposed?" But Snake did not seem to care, and just smiled nonchalantly. "Gu Mingming, can we go to your house this weekend?" A female classmate, who had not spoken to Gu Mingming since entering school, suddenly came up to Gu Mingming and smiled brightly like a sunflower. Gu Mingming was embarrassed. She could not even call out her name. What made her think that their relationship was so good that she could go to her house to play? Moreover, Gu Mingming instinctively looked at Snake. She was now living in the dormitory provided by Snake. How could she have a home to entertain her friends? Gu Mingming, why are you looking at him? The female classmate came up and tugged at Gu Mingming's arm. She said coquettishly, if it's not convenient at home, let us go to your company to take a look. Gu Mingming. Don't pretend. Everyone knows. You are the CEO of Monsieur Company, commonly known as the CEO. The female classmate smiled proudly. Gu Mingming was shocked and stared at Snake with her eyes wide open. Snake nodded, confirming the unknown female classmate's words. Gu Mingming asked Snake what was going on with her gaze. But Snake just smiled and whispered into her ear. The document you signed on the dining table in the morning was the transfer of shares. What? Shares? Gu Mingming only managed to say one word before she immediately covered her mouth. She pushed the female classmate aside and pulled Snake out of the classroom. Snake lazily allowed Gu Mingming to pull him to the stairwell. He then leaned against the wall and looked at Gu Mingming with a smile, saying, the great CEO pulled your little wolf dog to the stairwell during class time. Did he want to do something indescribable? What great CEO? What little wolf dog? What nonsense are you talking about? Gu Mingming was going crazy and said, didn't you say that was the transfer of management fee account in the morning? You said that you were too lazy to go to the bank, so you changed it to my bank account, and even took my bank card to make a copy. How did it become a share transfer certificate? Gu Mingming said the words, share transfer agreement very softly, afraid that others would hear her. But Snake laughed and knocked Gu Mingming's little head. How little common sense do you have? Which CEO would go to the bank to pay the property management fee? No. Gu Mingming was discouraged. I have never been a CEO before. How would I know? Aren't you now? President Gu. As Snake said, he bit Gu Mingming's earlobe and said, you were laughing so hard when you received the contract for a trial worker. I saw that you quite like Monsieur, so I gave it to you. I don't want that. Gu Mingming shook her head and said, hurry up and tear up that transfer certificate. Let's pretend nothing happened. Tearing up a contract is against the law. Snake pretended to be serious and said, moreover, I have already brought it to my lawyer for justice. You. Chapter 1420. Gu Mingming took out her phone in a daze and entered the bank app to check her balance. Oh my, so many zeros, making Gu Mingming dizzy. She couldn't even count them clearly. Snake turned off her phone and smiled. Don't count, it's just a string of numbers. You just need to know that you can buy whatever you want now that you have money. Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment before she suddenly looked up and smiled brightly. So you can't use the 7 to 9 clause to threaten me anymore? I can pay you 300,000 for breaching the contract, right? Snake raised his eyebrows. Now that you have money, the first thing you want to do is to dump me? Let me remind you, I'm worth more than those numbers in your bank account. Gu Mingming just grinned foolishly and said, that's different. Tell me, can I dump 300,000 from you for breaching the contract and become a free person? Snake smiled helplessly and nodded. Gu Mingming raised her hand happily. Ye free. Snake really loved Gu Mingming's naive look. All he did was hand over a year's worth of annual salary, and she was so happy that she looked like a fool. Freedom. Ha, with just this bit of money he would make her pay in less than 3 minutes. As long as he didn't want to let go, she couldn't buy her freedom even if she had the world's wealth. Moreover, she only had a few tens of millions in her hands. Gu Mingming laughed for a long time before taking 2 deep breaths. All right, let's forget about it. I don't know how to manage a business. If such a big company is handed over to me, it will definitely go bankrupt. If we can't tear up the contract, let's get it back to the notary. You have the courage to make fun of the nobles, but I don't have the courage to be a bossy. It's all right if you don't know how to manage, you can hire me. Snake hugged Gu Mingming's shoulders. I'm very cheap. Not only do I not need you to pay me, I can even provide for your food and lodging, make you happy and warm your bed. You're getting more and more indecent. Gu Mingming elbowed Snake. Stop fooling around. I really can't accept this kind of gift. It's too burdensome. Silly. Snake kissed Gu Mingming's little head. What's there to be burdensome about? What is yours and what is mine is ours, and what is ours is yours. It's just a small business. Isn't it the same no matter whose name it is? As long as you don't fly me, I don't care about anything else. The small company you're talking about is Monsieur Group, which has assets of tens of billions of USD. I really can't take it. You're scaring me. Gu Mingming shook Snake's arm and begged, accepting such an expensive gift just because we're dating. What will others say about me in the future? Snakel smiled and said, how should I put it? I would probably say that you are a hidden rich man who came to school just to provide for me. Your mind is not on your studies at all, so your results have not been ideal. Gu Mingming was taken aback. So, you did it because you heard those girls gossiping about my results in the toilet yesterday? Snake did not deny it, but neither did he admit it. He just smiled. Chapter 14:21. The students all started spreading rumors in private, saying that Gu Mingming was being kept by a rich and powerful man. And when they personally witnessed that the person who stood up for Gu Mingming was Snake's classmate, they all kept their mouths shut and no one dared to reveal Snake's identity. This caused the rumors to become even more exaggerated. The list of people who kept Gu Mingming's lovers had swept away almost all the big shots in the political and financial circles, except for Snake. Snake did not like Gu Mingming to be paired up with others, not even rumors. Her name could only be paired up with Snake's name and linked together. But if he stood out as the CEO of Monsieur, then the dirty water would still be poured onto Gu Mingming, and the sugar daddy would only be Snake. Moreover, Gu Mingming would most likely be twisted into all sorts of B** cheese, and be condemned by keyboard warriors. Snake did not want Gu Mingming to suffer from all these. So, if one of them had to be a mistress, then he would be the one. A share transfer agreement had turned Gu Mingming into the CEO of a company with assets of 10 billion USD. Then, all the shopping, villas and luxury cars that Mo Bebe had previously taken out would naturally be rationalized. And he, being Gu Mingming's sugar daddy sounded quite interesting. Using beauty to seduce Tu Ming, this was definitely a compliment to Snake. Of course, if Tu Ming minded that their relationship had been twisted by others, he just had to announce another identity that could match Gu Mingming's. If there really was no identity that could match the low-profile Monsieur company, he could just establish another company. These were all small matters, why bother? So after he had Gu Mingming sign the share transfer agreement, he arranged for someone to spread the news in school. As expected, the moment he arrived at school, everyone started pointing fingers at him. In the past, he hated it when other people's gazes were focused on him, but today he felt especially good being stared at. There was no other reason but because everyone's topic of discussion today was, look, he's Gu Mingming's sugar daddy. Yep, the whole world knew that he was Tu Ming's man. This felt so much better than the word embroidered on his chest. It felt so good. Gu Mingming looked at Snake's enigmatic smile, and did not know what he was thinking about. She pushed his arm and said, actually, you don't have to be like this. It's a fact that your results are not good. Let them say whatever they want. If you really want to help me, just tutor me and raise my grades. It's too scary to throw an entire enterprise at me. My heart can't take it. Snake rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and hugged her in his arms. Don't overcomplicate this matter. Just do what you have to do. I will settle Monsieur's matter, and I won't let you suffer. Moreover, that company originally belonged to you. Belongs to me? Gu Mingming was confused. Of course. I've said it before. Everything I want to give you is yours. Snakel pinched Gu Mingming's face with a smile, then said, aren't you curious why it's called Monsieur Company? Gu Mingming thought about it and nodded. Chapter 14:22. Snake looked at Gu Mingming calmly. His expression was so calm that it was impeccable. That's impossible. Monsieur Company has been established for more than 5 years, and you just met me this semester. How could it be possible? Gu Mingming was really dumbfounded. Snake placed his palm in front of Gu Mengmeng and said, "Tumeng." "What?" Gu Mengmeng instinctively responded, and placed her hand in Snake's. Ever since he snatched her love letter, he had been calling her that every now and then. It was almost a conditioned reflex. Snake smiled and held Gu Mengmeng's little fist. He brought it to his lips and kissed it. "Do you believe in the predestined past and present lives?" Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly and shook her head. Snake chuckled and said, "I didn't believe it in the past, but now I do. Perhaps a person's life is a continuous cycle of reincarnation. After living in this life and dying, crossing the bridge of helplessness, drinking the soup of Meng, then descending to the human world again to experience everything in the previous life. The cycle repeats endlessly. As for me, I loved you so much in my previous life, so I did not drink the soup of Meng even after crossing the bridge of helplessness. Or maybe I did drink it, but that soup could not overcome my love for you. So I still remember how much I love you." Gu Mengmeng's face was full of disdain. She raised her arm for Snake to see. "My hairs are all standing up. My great CEO, you should stop reading so many romance novels. It's very touching to hear such a sentence in a novel, but it's so disgusting to hear it in person." Snake chuckled. He did not get angry no matter how she ridiculed him. Instead, he loved how she became more and more presumptuous in front of him. In the beast world, she was always so careful in front of him. Now that he thought about it, she might just be afraid of snakes. "Then, since you love me so much, don't make things difficult for me. Hurry and take back Monsieur Company." Gu Mengmeng begged. Snake shook his head and said, "There's no such thing as taking back something you've given away. But if you're willing to press your nose and squeal like a little pig, I can reluctantly help you settle the media meeting in the afternoon, and not let your identity be exposed." Gu Mengmeng exploded. "What? There's even a media meeting?" Snake nodded and took out his cell phone to randomly open a news website. The top headline was about the change in the CEO of Monsieur Company, as well as all sorts of speculations about tonight's press conference. Without any hesitation, Gu Mengmeng pressed the tip of her nose upwards and then snorted like a pig. Snake smiled and rubbed her face, his eyes full of affection. Perhaps, even Snake himself had never expected that his pair of sinister eyes, feared by the entire beast world, would one day become so gentle. "You're so adorable." With that, he hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms and rubbed her for a while before saying, "All right, let's go back to class first. Leave the rest to me." Gu Mengmeng only felt that her head was about to explode. She could only allow Snake to half push and half hug her back to the classroom. The class was already halfway through and Gu Mengmeng wanted to sneak in from the back door, but why would Snake do such a thing? He directly pushed open the door and walked into the classroom with Gu Mengmeng in his arms. The seat where Gu Mengmeng's bag was placed was still empty. No one dared to touch Gu Mengmeng's things. Chapter 14:23. The morning classes passed in a daze. Gu Mengmeng had yet to recover from the shock of a poor student turning into a multimillionaire with hundreds of billions of assets. Snake, the top student in the second year, acted as if he did not need to go to school. Every day, he would follow Gu Mengmeng's schedule and attend whatever classes she had. When Gu Mengmeng had no classes, he would accompany her to wander around the school. When Gu Mengmeng skipped classes, he would also skip classes with her. Hence, since Gu Mengmeng did not have any classes in the afternoon, Snake dragged Gu Mengmeng to the basketball club. Gu Mengmeng did not have any plans and she was used to being led by the nose by Snake, so she was used to him sticking to her. It was as if the two of them were conjoined twins, and she did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. When they reached the basketball club, Zhang Jincheng and the rest were already warming up. Bai Lan was holding onto a mineral water bottle as she watched Zhang Jincheng and the rest practice, cheering them on from time to time. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had arrived, Bai Lan threw away her water bottle and pounced over to hug Gu Mengmeng. She chuckled. "Girl, did you miss me?" Gu Mengmeng glanced at Zhang Jincheng and said sourly, "What's the use of me missing you? You must be in a honeyed relationship now, flushed with success and enjoying yourself to the point of forgetting home, right? In this world, one can only hear the new laugh and never hear the old cry. That's impossible." Bailan completely ignored Snake's existence. She hooked her arms around Gu Mingming's neck and forcefully pulled her out of his arms. She said as she walked, "New clothes are not as good as old people. How can a new lover have old hobbies? Isn't that right? As long as you say the word, I will immediately fly away. Zhan Jincheng will be with you forever, flying wing to wing. How about that?" Gu Mingming could already see Snake's face turning from white to green, and now it was turning a little black. She poked Bailan and said, "Forget it, I will not do something like breaking up a pair of lovebirds." TSK coward. Bailan naturally saw that Gu Mingming was looking at Snake's expression. She laughed and did not continue teasing her. It was true that Bailan was carefree, but she would never do anything that would put Gu Mingming in a difficult position. She could tell that Gu Mingming had fallen into Snake's hands. This little girl was just experiencing her first awakening of love, and was definitely not a match for someone of Snake's level. In order not to let Gu Mingming suffer even more when she was not around, Bailan knew when to stop. She would not allow Snake to use her as an excuse to bully Gu Mingming behind her back. Of course, Bailan was purely because of Snake's usual aloof and domineering persona. Actually, strictly speaking, Snake's level of love was on par with Gu Mingming's. Their love experience and sources were both Korean dramas and novels. The difference was that Gu Mingming watched them on her own while Snake received them passively from Gu Mingming's memories. In other words, these were all theories on paper. It was the first time for a young lady to experience it in a bridal sedan chair, so no one should laugh at each other. Snake was displeased that Bailan had snatched her from his arms, but he could not snatch her back openly, so he could only rub her head and say, "I will go change, don't go too far. I want to see you the moment I step out of the changing room." "All right," Gu Mingming replied softly and even smiled sweetly. Chapter 1424. When Snake'll came out of the changing room, he saw Gu Mingming curled up into a ball on the chair, looking pitiful. Bailan's left foot was stepping on the edge of Gu Mingming's chair, her right hand supporting the back of the chair as she circled Gu Mingming in an extremely rough and barbaric position. She pinched Gu Mingming's shoulder with her right hand and shook it with all her might, her saliva flying everywhere as she scolded. "Gu Mingming, let me tell you, if you damn care about him, not only are you stupid, you're also a B***tch. Did you forget that when you were in the first year of junior high, your stepfather did not give you any money for your school fees? You were forced to ask him for child support, but what happened in the end? He allowed that mistress to slap you on the streets, and your ears were still ringing 3 days after you came back. The left side of your face was swollen for a week, before it went down. In the end, he did not even give you a single cent after you were beaten up so badly, right? I brought you to argue with him, but what did he say? He said you were beaten up because you did not respect your elders, and did not call the mistress mother. It's only right for a mother to teach her daughter a lesson. You said bad things about her in front of others because of your poor upbringing. I slapped you too lightly that day, right?" Gu Mingming nodded with reddened eyes. Bailan roared angrily. "Didn't I ask him then? Forcing you to call a B***tch who broke up your family, turning you from a happy child to an orphan mother. How shameless can he be? What did he say to me? Tell me." Gu Mingming bit her lower lip and said in a sobbing tone, "He said if I was a son, he would definitely not divorce my mother. If I want to blame someone, I can only blame myself for not being able to carry on the Gu family line. I can't blame him for being so disappointing." "What else?" Bailan was relentless. Gu Mingming's tears rolled down her cheeks as she said in a hoarse voice, "He told me not to be as shameless as my mother. He is not a son, so why should I spend his money? He told me not to appear in front of him again, lest I destroy the harmony of his family. He said every cent of his money is to be left for his son. Then why the hell is he looking for you now?" Bailan gritted her teeth in anger, her eyes turning red as she stared at Gu Mingming. She looked as if she was pitiful for her misfortune and angry at her failure to live up to her expectations. She steeled her heart and could not bear to continue scolding her. She hugged Gu Mingming and said, "Girl, let me tell you, you cannot be so cowardly. No matter why he comes back to you, you can't take care of him. Otherwise, Your soft-heartedness and kindness will kill you sooner or later. I know. I know. Gu Mingming nodded while wiping her tears. Today was their daily practice. Having learned their lesson from last time, there were already people guarding the entrance during the basketball club's practice to prevent random people from entering. He had no choice. Snake's status was high, and if he said he didn't like being surrounded by people, the school would naturally give him some peace. So, only the basketball club's internal members had seen Gu Mingming crying like that today. The moment Zhang Jincheng came out, he saw Bailan pressing down on Gu Mingming and scolding her. His entire face turned green. He was so afraid that Snake would lose control and kick Bailan away. He was already mentally prepared to be Bailan's punching bag. Luckily, Snake only looked upset and did not make a move. Chapter 14:25. Gu Mingming nodded and smiled embarrassedly. Only then did she realize that the basketball club members had been standing there looking at her for a long time. Her ugly cry just now must have been seen by everyone. Snake gave Zhang Jincheng a look, and Zhang Jincheng immediately understood and pulled Bailan to one side. Snake then walked up and hugged Gu Mingming in his arms. You have already cried twice over this matter. I have already reached my limit. If you don't want to see me capture them and burn their bones to ashes, you are not allowed to cry over this matter in the future. Do you understand? Gu Mingming nodded. Gu Mingming instinctively buried her face into Snake's chest and nodded her head slightly. She really had no face to see anyone now. If she told everyone that the person who was crying like a dog just now was not her, but her twin sister, would anyone believe her? Or should she say that she had two personalities? Gu Mingming was in a dilemma when Bailan shouted, "What are you all looking at? Don't you need to practice?" Practice, practice, practice. Ever since Zhang Jincheng confirmed his relationship with Bailan, he had been listening to Bailan's words as if they were imperial edicts. Bailan tooted at Snake, but did not say anything. Gu Mingming pushed Snake and said, "You go practice too, I will just sit here and watch." Not crying anymore? Snake cupped Gu Mingming's face and asked. Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Not crying anymore." Snake then smiled and kissed her forehead. "That's good. You are already ugly and you look even uglier when you cry. You." Gu Mingming was exasperated and snorted without saying a word. Snake pinched her bun-like little face and entered the court in satisfaction. He dribbled the ball for 2 rounds as a warm-up, before starting a 3-on-3 practice that was even more exciting than an exhibition match. Gu Mingming's Bailan watched from the side. Although she did not understand the rules and details, she had to say that the slam dunk was really cool. There was a loud bang, and the shock was not just a little. The slam dunk was so cool. Gu Mingming held Bailan's hand and muttered. Snake's hearing was much better than the average person's, especially when he was paying attention to Gu Mingming's movements. He naturally heard that sentence. So he glanced sideways at Gu Mingming and called out, "Tu Ming." Gu Mingming looked up. "Ah." Instinctively she responded. Then she saw Snake displaying the exaggerated and flashy dunks from Slam Dunk and Kuriko's basketball in a superb manner. Then he used his arm to clamp the ball on his waist and walked in front of Gu Mingming. He leaned forward to accommodate Gu Mingming's height and looked into her eyes. "Does it look good?" Gu Mingming nodded and said, Good, so handsome. It's a pity that I'm not tall enough. Otherwise, I'd join the basketball club. I really want to try it. Slam dunks or something. They look so cool." Snakel smiled and the ball landed on the back of his foot. He hooked his leg and used the back of his foot and calf to stabilize the ball. Then he grabbed Gu Mingming's waist with both hands and lifted her above his head, riding on his neck. After Gu Mingming sat down, he lifted his leg and kicked the ball into his hands. He carried Gu Mingming to the bottom of the basket and patted the ball twice before tossing it up to Gu Mingming. "Didn't you want to try it? Dunk it." Gu Mingming was dumbfounded. She held the ball and did not know what to do. Chapter 14:26. The white fog gradually condensed. Gu Mingming stretched lazily and stood up from the beast deity's side. She realized that the beast deity and Elvis were looking at her with strange expressions. She thought about it and understood. My tragic childhood has passed for a long time. I am living a good life now and every day is blissful and fulfilling. I don't have the time to dwell on the grudges of the previous generation. Gu Mingming walked into Elvis's arms and hugged him. Then she smiled and said, just like what Elvis said, if all the sufferings I experienced in the past were necessary for me to meet him and Leah, then those sufferings were all worth it. Even if it was a little more painful, I can still endure it. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming tightly and kissed her temple. He could not say a word. His heart was in so much pain that it could not be any more painful. Thousands of words of consolation were stuck in his throat. He could not even think of a suitable sentence to say. The beast deity sighed and said, it's all right, it's best if you forget. He doesn't cherish you, his precious daughter, but I cherish you. He values men over women, so I sent you to a world where women are more important than men. The grievances you suffered at his place, I'll make it up to you double. Gu Mingming smiled sweetly and said, so, it's enough for me to have you as my father. The beast deity nodded. His eyes were still filled with heartache. Then other than asking about Wabi, do you have anything else you want to ask this time? The beast deity looked like he was trying to make up for all the sufferings his daughter had suffered. It was as if he would agree to whatever Gu Mingming asked for this time. Gu Mingming smiled. She felt that if she did not ask for an exorbitant price, she would be letting down her father's good intentions. But she decided to forget it. Father was the beast deity, but there seemed to be a leader above him. She was a sensible daughter, and could not make things difficult for her father. So she thought for a moment and replied, I will be heading to the Mota Mountains during the dry season. Father, do you have any instructions for me? The beast deity thought for a moment. He looked at Elvis and then at Gu Mingming and said, I think Gregory is not bad. Are you really not considering taking him in? There was no harm in having someone who could fly in the family. I have measured his abilities and after mating he should be able to reach the 4th level, and is close to the 5th level. If he works hard, he should be able to reach the 5th level in less than a year. By then you can give Cole's soul of the forest to him, and then give the spirit of the rocky cliffs to your little fox. Your family will have 4 beast kings, and you can form an air, sea, land and land team. By then, there will be nothing you can't do and you will be invincible. Gu Mingming held her forehead and said, Father, I don't have any grand plans to rule the beast world. TSK, look at you. The beast deity pinched Gu Mingming's nose and said, then even if we don't unify the beast world, isn't it good to go for a ride in the sky when we have nothing to do? Besides, Gregory's appearance is not bad, so he should be in line with your taste. Gu Mingming glanced at Elvis, whose expression was becoming more and more serious. She shot a meaningful glance at the beast deity and said, Father, how can you make things difficult for your own daughter? The beast deity rubbed his fingers and said nonchalantly, stopping females from taking in new partners is a big taboo in the beast world. Aren't you afraid that the males from other females will follow suit? By then, all of them will be like them, using their powerful abilities to stop females from taking in new partners. According to the ratio of males to females in the beast world. You don't have to unify the beast world anymore. The beast world will probably be extinct very soon. Aside from the topic, it was the end of the month and the monthly tickets would expire if they were not used. On account of Susu's hard work this month, she would give the monthly tickets to Susu then. Susu would try her best to save up her drafts so that she could give her babies another round of votes. Chapter 1427. I don't think so. Gu Mingming smiled bitterly. The beast deity waved his hand and Gu Mingming went to his side obediently. The beast deity pulled Gu Mingming to sit on the 2-seater bench and asked, do you know how many partners the previous messenger of the beast deity had? Gu Mingming thought for a moment and said, I heard there were over 100. It was said that her family was so big that it was like a tribe. The beast deity chuckled and said, 172. Gu Mingming shook her head in shock, dumbfounded and speechless. The beast deity continued, then guess, How many mating marks does she have on her body? Gu Mingming instinctively answered, 172. The beast deity knocked Gu Mingming's head with a smile and pointed at her collarbone, saying, 172 marks of this size? Can they fit on her body? Gu Mingming lowered her head to take a look and agreed with him, so she asked, then, the beast deity stretched out 4 fingers and said, only 4. Only 4? Gu Mingming was shocked. How should she put it? The education that modern people received was different. Gu Mingming felt extremely guilty for having 2 partners, and always felt that she owed one and the other. So in front of Elvis and Leah, she always acted coquettishly and softly when she met with problems. She rarely had the domineering aura of the females in the beast world. And now, the reason why she said the word only was because the number given by the beast deity was too high. There were 172 partners, but only 4 of them had a mark. What kind of concept was this? The remaining 168 meant that they would be widows for the rest of their lives? The beast deity seemed to have seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts and said, the females in the beast world can have today's status in the family because of the foundation Wang Xiaoxin laid down. Males couldn't go against the wishes of females, and they couldn't stop females from taking in new partners. Even if they had status, they couldn't force females to mate. Females had absolute leadership in the entire family. If males wanted to have the opportunity to mate and reproduce, the only way was to treat females well. This has been passed down for thousands of years, and that is why females have today's status. You and Wang Xiaoxin have the same status, so your family situation will directly affect the family structure of the entire beast world. But Gu Mingming was in a difficult position. She knew that she was in a position and had to plan for her own affairs, but 172 partners. That image was terrifying just thinking about it. Gu Mingming felt that with her brain cells, she might not even be able to remember the names of her partners. The beast deity shook his head and interrupted Gu Mingming's words. I'm not asking you to accept everything. Just be like Oriton and give him the title of guardian beast. Wait a minute. Gu Mingming was dumbfounded. Oriton is just someone who shares meals with me. He's not my man. The beast god chuckled. He is. What the heck? Gu Mingming's face was filled with fear. No. I didn't that. Elvis tightened his grip on Gu Mingming's waist and said, he's our family's guardian beast. It's just that both of you have no intention of mating, so Leah and I didn't mention it. But other than you, everyone else, including Oriton, Leah and I, have already silently acknowledged his status as a member of the family. Ah. Gu Mingming felt as though she was struck by lightning. Chapter 1428. Gu Mingming was stunned for a long while before she said, then wouldn't I be wasting Oriton's life? No, I won't let him eat here in the future. Elvis sighed and said, if you make this decision, it's equivalent to abandoning him. Although he did not mate with you, his status has already been recognized by the beast world. If you don't want him, no female will want him. Moreover, in his eyes, food is more important than females. So if you don't let him eat here, that's really wasting his life. I'll go. Gu Mingming squatted down with a dejected face and said, why do I feel like I'm defiling a lady? Elvis also squatted down and carried Gu Mingming up. He said, you might find it awkward to say we're guardian beasts. In other words, do you still remember what you said about favored concubines, dancers and followers? Oriton is probably like a retainer who sold himself into our family. We provide for his food and lodging, and he helps you bully others. Both parties are willing, no one is forcing the other, and it's not like you're defiling him. Moreover, if you want to defile males, the favored concubine and Leah, the dancer, are still waiting. How can he get his turn? Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and turned to look at the beast deity. She asked, so Wang Xiaoxin's so-called 172 partners, most of them are hired thugs and not partners. There are only 4 real partners, right? The beast deity shook his head and said, Wang Xiaoxin only acknowledged whales as her partner. The remaining 3 can only be considered as lovers. Gu Mingming was speechless once again. She also had 2 partners. As long as she was not the only one, Then it was the pot calling the kettle black. No one was better than the other. So she was not in a position to criticize or mock Wang Xiaoxin. But for Gu Mingming to learn from Wang Xiaoxin and have over 100 men by her side, even if they were not husband and wife, Gu Mingming would still feel awkward with the false title of Gu Mingming's man. Now that she thought about it, she did not know how to face Oratin. She had thought they were friends, and it was just a matter of adding a pair of chopsticks during a meal. In the end, she ended up ruining his reputation as they ate. If she had any thoughts about Oratin, it was fine. At most, she would just go with the flow and let the conditions be right. But the problem was that she had no feelings for Oratin. To her, Oratin, he might as well have feelings for Leah. The beast deity cleared his throat and said, Gregory has fallen for you. Even if you can't accept him like how you accepted Leah, you should be able to accept Oratin, right? Just give him a chance to stay by your side and take care of you. If you develop feelings for him in the future, you can accept him. If you can't, he can just be another fighter. There's nothing bad about that. Anyway, he can rely on himself, and not only will he not be a burden, he can even help you enrich your dining table. Isn't it good to get some food for you that Elvis and Leah can't? Gu Mingming paused for 2 seconds before looking at the beast deity and blinking her eyes. Father, tell me the truth. Did you receive benefits from others? You've been acting weird today. You've been speaking up for Gregory and trying to get me to take him in. Is there? You're thinking too much. No. Definitely not. The beast god turned his face away guiltily and looked to the side. Chapter 1429. The beast deity rubbed his nose and said, All right, I will speak the truth. The beast deity looked like he could not do anything to Gu Mingming and sighed, then said, After you obtain the love of the sky, you will become the lord of the birds. The bird tribe will be guided by your bloodline to follow you. For thousands of years, the bird tribe has never left Mota Mountains, so they will definitely feel uneasy after leaving the mountains. So I think, if you allow Gregory to join your family, it will be a form of psychological support and security for the entire bird tribe. At least they will not feel too flustered and helpless. And Gregory can also use his status as the messenger's partner to coordinate the relationship between the birds and the land beasts. After all, among the land beasts, only the wolf tribe and fox tribe have beast kings. One of them is your partner, the other, will soon be replaced by your partner. If you become a family member with these 2 beast kings, many things will be easily resolved. Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity doubtfully and asked, Is that really the case? Gu Mingming dragged out her words, obviously not believing him. The beast deity cleared his throat and said, Not entirely. There are some other reasons that I cannot tell you now. But you have to believe that I am your biological father, and will not harm you. Gu Mingming's face was full of reluctance as she said, I already feel bad for making use of the fact that Gregory likes me at Mota Mountains previously. Now, I still want to make use of the fact that he likes me even though I know I'm destined to let him down. Father, is it really all right for you to personally train your daughter into a scumbag? The beast deity stiffened his neck and said, Who said my daughter is a scumbag? Humph, have you never seen a beast deity angry before? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, I feel that there are many ways to balance the relationship between the 2 tribes. Marriage is not the only solution. The beast deity tugged at Gu Mingming's little hand and said, But this is the most effective method. Firstly, the bird tribe will have a place of sustenance after leaving the mountains. Secondly, you have not taken in any new members for 4 years. There are already rumors in the beast world about Elvis and Lee's domineering ways. Many males have even started to imitate their style of doing things. Didn't you see it with your own eyes when winter ended last year? The fire fox in St. Nazir's Liana's family had already started to think about their first partner. This time you discovered it and beat him up in time, but what about next time? How many times would you be able to discover such thoughts? How many times could he stop it? When the atmosphere in the beast world changes, it would be impossible for you to turn the tide. I'm not saying that you have to mate with Gregory. Just treat it as a new servant. Can't you do that? This It wasn't that it was impossible to recruit servants, but the problem was, which family would recruit servants for life? Even if they sold themselves as slaves in ancient times, they could still marry a maid and start a family, right? But if these servants were to be recruited into the beast world, they would be labeled as Gumingmings and could only hang around her for the rest of their lives. Isn't this a scourge? The beast deity did not force her to make a decision immediately. He just patted the back of her hand and said, "Anyway, there's still some time before the dry season. There's no rush to decide now. Go back and discuss this with your fox, and ask Gregory for his opinion as well. What if he's willing to be your retainer for the rest of his life?" Chapter 1430. Okay, go ahead. The beast deity did not harp on Gregory's matter anymore. He had already analyzed the pros and cons for Gu Mengmeng. He could not forcefully interfere with the matters of the beast world. Gu Mengmeng said, "Cole wants to gather the 7 treasures and open the doors of time and space to transmigrate there to rule the earth." Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes as she spoke. She truly felt that Cole was a patient with a Chinibu syndrome. Just talking about his ideals and goals made her feel like a retard. Taking a deep breath, he continued, "You said last time that even if the 7 treasures are gathered, the time gate will open here, right? This dream, without me leading the way, can Cole enter by himself?" The beast god hesitated for a moment before nodding. Gu Mengmeng sighed. She knew it would be like this, because Snake had appeared here before, and he seemed to have arrived earlier than her. Gu Mengmeng held her forehead and said, "So if I want to stop him, I have to kill him before he gathers the 7 treasures." The beast deity shook his head. "Unless you want to give up on Qi Xian, you cannot kill him. If it's the bewitching spell, maybe I have other ways to undo it." The beast god replied, "It's not the bewitching spell. It's the soul of the forest." Gu Mengmeng frowned in confusion. The beast deity explained patiently, "The soul of the forest has a total of 2 leaves. One of them saved Qishuan's life, while the other allowed Cole to regrow a broken arm and tail. Both leaves had already spread out, and were living together on the same branch. If Cole died now, the effect of the soul of the forest would also disappear. At that time, Qi Xian." Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip. "What if I snatched the soul of the forest?" The beast deity shook his head and said, "When the second leaf bloomed, the soul of the forest had already grown its roots. Now, the roots are intertwined with Cole's heart. If you forcefully take it, Cole will definitely die. So I can't do anything to Cole now?" Gu Mengmeng's shoulders drooped weakly as she collapsed into Elvis's arms. The beast deity lowered his gaze and said, "It's not that there's no way, but we have to take a gamble." Gu Mengmeng looked up at the beast deity, waiting for him to continue. The beast god said, "Gathering the 7 treasures can open the gate of time and space, but at the same time, it can also fulfill a wish." Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes and said, "What you mean is, not only can I not stop Cole from gathering the 7 treasures, I should also help him gather them. Then when the 7 treasures are gathered, I will kill Cole and use my wish to exchange for Qishuan's life." The beast deity nodded, indicating that what Gu Mengmeng said was exactly what he was thinking. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "All right, father, then I will go back first. My mind is in a mess now. I need to go back and discuss it with Leah." "All right." The beast deity stood in the clouds, waving his sleeves as he watched Gu Mengmeng fall backwards. When she opened her eyes, Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment. The fox in front of her should be Leah, but why did he look different? Gu Mengmeng reached out her hand to touch Lee's face. Leah smiled and dodged it. He brought a cup of water over and supported Gu Mengmeng's waist to help her sit up. He brought the cup to her lips and said, "Drink some water first." Chapter 1431. Leah chuckled and allowed Gu Mengmeng to kiss his face until it was covered in water. He did not mind and just let Gu Mengmeng hang around his neck like a little monkey. He placed the cup at the side and held Gu Mengmeng's but with both hands to pull her into his arms. Then he looked at Elvis and asked, "What did he say?" Elvis filled a large cup of water for himself, and then repeated what the beast deity had said to Gu Mengmeng. including the information he saw about Gu Mingming's scumbag father in the dream realm. After he finished, Gu Mingming clearly saw Li's face darken. His long and narrow eyes were filled with a storm, and Gu Mingming could even see the green veins popping out on his forehead. The corners of his lips were pulled to one side. And that was how he looked like when he was extremely angry. Good, very good. Not only did they not take good care of you, they even abandoned you, despised you and used harsh words to ridicule you. They even dared to hit you. Every single word that Bai Lan said to Gu Mingming in the dream realm was like a sharp knife cutting into Leah and Elvis's hearts. Leah squeezed each word out from the gaps of his teeth. With every word, his eyes turned a shade redder, and in the end, because of the unbearable pain in his chest, his expression became a little hideous. He hugged Gu Mingming tightly in his arms, as if he wanted to rub her into his body. His breathing was heavy and hot, and he let out a deep and resonating voice from his chest. He whispered into Gu Mingming's ear. "You are the treasure in my heart. How could you be bullied by them like that?" Actually, when she saw that scene in the dream realm, Gu Mingming's heart ached for a moment, but she quickly adjusted her emotions. After all, things had changed and she could pull herself away. But now that Leah said that, she suddenly felt a little sore in her nose. She looked up at Elvis, who was pursing his lips in self-reproach and forbearance, full of heartache. Gu Mingming suddenly let out a stream of tears. That feeling was like when you were alone and you had clenched your teeth to endure it, but when someone doted on you, all your grievances would be overflowing. These tears were not sad, but instead, there was a faint hint of happiness. Gu Mingming smiled and said, "It's all right, it's all in the past. I've already forgotten." Leah held Gu Mingming's shoulders and kissed away her tears. Then he kissed her lips. His voice was trembling from heartache. "But you cried." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "It's not because I'm sad that I'm crying. I just suddenly felt very blessed that someone would feel sorry for me when I was wronged. Actually, compared to you and Elvis, my childhood was really nothing. Some people say that there is a limit to how much luck a person can have in a lifetime. I suffered a little when I was young, probably because I wanted to save up luck to meet you guys. I think it's quite worth it. If I were to choose again, I would still choose to be abandoned by them when I was young, and then transmigrate to the beast world to meet you guys." Leah shook his head and said in a low voice, "No, I would rather we suffer 10 times or 100 times more pain in exchange for your blissful past. I don't want you to suffer, not even a little bit." Pausing for a moment, Leah said faintly, "Mingming, I have something to discuss with you." "Huh?" Gu Mingming tilted her head to look at Leah. Chapter 1432. Go over. Gu Mingming was taken aback. "Go over for what? Do you want to rule the earth too?" Leah shook his head. "I have no interest in ruling the earth, but my woman was bullied. I cannot tolerate this. This enmity. I must definitely take revenge. Personally." Gu Mingming had wanted to say that Snake had already taken care of them and helped her vent her anger, so there was no need to mention it again. But Li's last 3 words made Gu Mingming choke back her words. Her man was protecting her. This feeling was quite good. Gu Mingming also wanted to agree readily and say, "All right, let's go back and look for them. I will take revenge for that slap with interest." But the truth was, Gu Mingming shook her head. "There are too many uncertainties in the doors of time and space. It was an accident that I transmigrated here. I am not sure if we can return after entering. There are my important friends, adorable children and close family members here. I am not willing to risk losing people who love me, and I love them for the sake of 2 people who had hurt me. I don't think it's worth it." Leah lowered his head and thought for a moment. "Then make a wish for them to come to the beast world." "I only have one wish. I want to use it to save Qi Xian," Gu Mingming said carefully. She knew that Leah could not tolerate her suffering. But honestly, her scumbag father and mistress were not as important as her son. Leah took a deep breath. "If I can think of a way to save Qi Xian before gathering the 7 treasures, then give me that wish. I will use it to summon them here to take revenge for you." "All right." Gu Mingming nodded in agreement. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances. This matter was finally over. Leah looked outside the window and asked, Mingming, do you hate that Gregory? Gu Mingming thought about it. I don't hate him, but I don't like him either. Towards him, I don't have any feelings. Leah thought for a moment. Actually, the beast deity is right. As the messenger of the beast deity, you have the responsibility to maintain the balance in the beast world. Actually, before you came, Elvis's and my plan was to not allow any new males to join the family within a year, and strive to make you pregnant with Elvis's cubs within a year to solidify his status as the first partner. However, there were many unexpected changes in the process. For example, you were pregnant with Huda and his brothers in the first winter, and the way you gave birth scared us. And these 4 years passed in the blink of an eye, but our family did not have any new members. Gu Mingming interrupted Li's words. But I don't want a new partner. I think you and Elvis are enough for me. These words warmed Li's heart. Even if this was an impractical lie in the beast world, Leah still enjoyed it. Leah did not pursue the truth and only asked Gu Mingming, if Snake could live again, would you still reject him? Gu Mingming thought for a while and shook her head. She lowered her head and said, if he can come back to life, I can't pretend that I don't know anything in front of him, and I can't reject him a second time. If it was him, I might have accepted it. Even though I was so afraid of snakes, now that I think about it, I don't seem to be afraid of him anymore. Chapter 1433. Gu Mingming did not understand. Wasn't he talking about Gregory? Why was it suddenly related to Snake again? Was there any difference between the guardian mark and the mating mark to Snake now? It was as if she admitted that he was her deceased husband and placed a memorial tablet in the ancestral hall, would he come back to life? Leah seemed to have seen through Gu Mingming's doubts and answered her directly. That way, you and Elvis mated in the first year and gave birth to Huda and his brothers. In the second year, you took me in as a beast pet and Oriton joined the family as a guardian beast. In the third year, you mated with Snake and I was promoted from a beast pet to your third partner. Gu Mingming face-bombed and said, so you mean I have not stopped every year, right? Leah lowered his head and chuckled, saying, you can say that. Although there is only one more member every year, and this number is too little compared to normal families in the beast world, but at least there are new people joining every year, and it is still acceptable. Gu Mingming sighed and said, so this year is the 4th year and Gregory joined my family, right? Leah nodded and said, I will not give him the chance to flirt in front of you. I am the only male who climbed into your bed from a beast pet. So he will stay in our family as a guardian beast, and will not stay with us normally. Just like Oriton, he will come over to share a meal with us during meal times. Just treat it as adding a pair of chopsticks to the dining table, and you don't have to care about him, alright? Don't. Gu Mingming had a look of resistance and said, one Oriton is already giving me a headache and I don't even know how to deal with him. Why do I feel like I am harming others by bringing Gregory back? Elvis and I are still free. Even if you want to harm others, it will not be him. Leah said it casually, but Gu Mingming lowered her head and smiled, saying, what a coincidence. Elvis also said the same thing in the dream realm. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances and then smiled, saying, this is tacit understanding. Just based on our tacit understanding, unless you are willing, no one will be able to compete with us. Gu Mingming was unwilling and lowered her head, saying, is there no other way? Our family of 3 is living a good life, but you have to shove an outsider in. I feel uncomfortable. Leah kissed Gu Mingming and said, don't worry, be it Gregory or Oriton, unless you want them, they don't even have the right to enter your cave. It's just a title. It doesn't have any substance. Gu Mingming said, but once this name is hung up, their entire lives will be over. Dad said that with my mark on them, no female will want them anymore. Leah chuckled. Why? Do you think someone will want them just because they don't put your label on them? Let's talk about Oriton first. Indeed, those tribe beauties used to confess to him frequently, but when you saw him, wasn't he still single? Ask him if he's willing to mate with another female and give up our family's food. Gu Mingming was speechless. There was no need to ask. In Oriton's eyes, The only thing more important than a meal cooked by Leah was Gu Mengmeng. Yes, Oraton said it himself. Gu Mengmeng was worth 3 days of food. Chapter 1434. Gu Mengmeng, do you remember the days when you wanted to break up with me? Leah asked. Gu Mengmeng nodded. That period of time was too torturous, and she naturally remembered it clearly. Leah continued. Do you know what was the most painful thing for me during that period of time? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Leah, the most painful thing for me was not seeing you and Elvis being so lovey-dovey with each other, collecting salt, digging potatoes and sweet potatoes, or even listening to your mating at the entrance of the cave. It was the days when you hid in the cave and didn't step out at all. I didn't know if you were crying, didn't know if you had eaten, didn't know if you were well, didn't know if you were still alive, didn't know if you were still in Saint Nazaire or even in the beast world. My guesses without any knowledge almost drove me crazy. I prayed to the gods not for you to forgive me, but for me to look at you from afar, to know that you are still alive, to know that you still exist, to know that you are still well. That is enough. As long as I take a look from afar, even if I can only see your silhouette and not hear your voice, it is all right. Just one look and I can get through that day. Even if the sweetness between you and Elvis made me feel as if thousands of arrows were stabbing into my heart, I would gladly endure that pain. Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and hugged Li's neck. She bit his shoulder and grumbled. Who asked you to be so pretentious? You had to pretend to fall in love with someone else with Nina, causing me to be sad and hurt my body. Now you are acting pitiful? Leah smiled bitterly and said, I know it was all my fault, so the pain I suffered then was all punishment. After that, in order to beg for your forgiveness, I deserved to be tortured by you. I didn't dare to complain or be dissatisfied. I am already grateful that you could forgive me in the end. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, All right, we are talking about them. Why are we talking about these past events again? Leah kissed the mark on Gu Mengmeng's left ear and said, I am talking about them. Gu Mengmeng replied with a single syllable to express her inquiry. Leah said, How different can Gregory's current state be from mine back then? He didn't have the right to stay, but he couldn't bear to leave. His situation was worse than mine. At least at that time. I knew that you liked me and I still had a chance to redeem myself. As for him, he has never even seen you like him. If he returns to Moda Mountains like this, how miserable will his life be? I don't think so. Then maybe he will meet a female he likes in the future and start a new life happily. Gu Mengmeng said. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.